Welcome, everyone, to the You Can't Handle the Truth Sports Podcast, episode 5. There are those who call me rubbish. We're having a nice early morning session, and I'm here with my co-host, The Pistol. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate.
Good, good. Who would have thought, if you went back to episode 1, you and I, being the doomsday gloomy gusses that we are, were saying we're not going to get a win until we play the West Coast Road Cones in round 6. And we're 3-0, mate. 3-0. Who'd have thought?
Yep. I
Pretty.
wouldn't
Yeah,
have. Yeah,
yeah,
I couldn't have
can't
come up with that.
complain.
I would have told you were dreaming.
Yeah, I know. Can't complain at all. And I think, I think a lot of what we've spoken about so far has been fairly topical, and I don't think that we've been jumping at shadows, although um, it's pretty clear that maybe we were a little bit wrong about some of our assertions when it comes to things like maybe some of the players and even the game style. But I don't think that our thoughts on our prospects for this year were completely out of the ballpark. Do you? Like, yes,
Nah.
we're good, but
If you based it off what we sort of based our initial thoughts on, which was 2023, and then what we had in the preseason there, which didn't look to be a change at all. And then round 1 comes around, and that first quarter sort of reinforced what we were thinking. The first half of the first quarter against Brisbane anyway, and then all of a sudden we played 3 quarters of good football and put a good side away.
yeah, and it's really flowed on from there, I guess. Although you can argue that both North Melbourne and Adelaide and even Brisbane, although they've got to come good at some point, Brisbane surely, but
they're a good side, yeah.
yeah, but I mean, you look at North and Adelaide and go, well, North, we know where they are. They're going to be very good moving forward, some point in the future.
Yeah.
Adelaide, or if I was an Adelaide supporter right now, I see them in a very similar context to the way that I see Fremantle in their development. I'd be pretty frustrated if I was an Adelaide fan. But
Just
if you look at
on Adelaide, just before we move on, that Matthew Nicks got an extension of 2 years at the same time as Longmuir got his 1 year. There was noise everywhere about Longmuir, and it was pretty quiet on the Adelaide front. And when you look at his win percentage, he's in the 30s, Matty Nicks, before the season started. And they're pretty much on the same tangent.
Yeah, look, I think a couple of things on that. They were both, I believe, given the coaching jobs at the same year. So you're right in that respect. When you talk about noise, I mean, we don't live in South Australia. I believe that's a bit of a fishbowl like Perth is. So it would surprise me if they weren't having the same kind of reaction over there. We just haven't seen it. And I have heard Kane Corns talk about this a bit as well. Maybe, because we were the first movers, we copped it a little bit more. I didn't hear David King say that, it's a PR disaster like he did about JL's, about Matthew Nicks. So, yeah, maybe you're right there. But, yeah, Adelaide, yeah, I think there's a bit going on there because as much as I've probably been critical of our midfield at times, I'd be more worried if I was an Adelaide supporter with their midfield.
Even their forward line, like Phil Thorpe's obviously injured, but you take Tex out, he's 35, 36, maybe older.
I think he's 34, actually, yeah.
Yeah. He leaves. You got Fogarty, who he's had his chance to prove himself, and what has he done really? He bobs up every now and then with 3 or 4. Last 2 weeks, he's been terrible. I think he got, what did he have a behind last week against us?
So he had 3 behinds. Tex had 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a salient point you make there, because what was the reasoning behind that score? Like, we kept them to 4 goals. Um, what was the reasoning behind that? Was it because Alex Pearce and Luke Ryan dominated and our midfield had their way? Or is it because Tex and Fogarty were just simply not very good? Probably
Uh,
somewhere in
yeah,
between, right?
yeah. I think our defensive structure. I think I've seen a bit on it was either 360 or on the couch, one of them, and they showed a bit of analysis there of how quickly we got back on the defensive structure and just shut them down, and they had to slow it right down. And I guess that was what made it for a boring game on the TV. Wasn't well, I guess not so much at the ground, but from what I'm hearing on TV, it wasn't that great to watch. But um, yeah,
Yeah. It was funny you say that, because I rewatched it the next day, like I always do whenever we win. And for me, it was a lot more frustrating at the ground than what it was watching it on TV. Now, maybe that's because I knew the end result and I knew that it got a bit better after the first half.
yeah,
I can't discount that, but I remember being at the ground with you for a good chunk of it,
yeah,
looking at it, going, mate, what is going on here? What, our skills are terrible, but at least their skills are terrible. We're not kicking goals. I was filthy about our first quarter, although I've got a bit of news to discuss about that when it comes to Justin Longmuir's views on that. Because of
yeah,
official announcement, we've got a little bit of a communication dialogue there between the You Can't Handle the Truth Sports podcast and Justin Longmuir, coach of the Dockers. They'll talk about that a little bit later, but I do remember being there at the ground going, man, this is just a disaster. This is terrible. Um, and then, we obviously won, and I left thinking, what a crap game. But then I watched it thinking that it was going to be a crap game, and it actually wasn't as bad as well, it's not as bad as what I thought it was, and it
yeah.
certainly wasn't as bad as what they were saying. I think Kane Corn said, well, that's going to be the worst game of the year. No, it's not going to be the worst game of the
Yeah,
year. I
no,
don't think.
I think that's a little bit of an over exaggeration
Yeah,
by Kane there.
yeah. He's not known for his hyperbole, though, is he, Kane
No, no,
Corns?
not at all.
Mm. So, yeah, so ultimately, 3-0. Game style seems to have stacked up. With, aside from what has been probably a couple of slow starts, we've been pretty well dominant through the midfield. And our forward line has done what it's needed to do, and our back line has been rock solid,
Yeah,
even with the injuries.
yep.
Even with the injuries.
Yeah, well,
So,
Drapers came in, has not missed a beat.
yeah, yeah. In fact, he had a moment. He had a couple of moments on the weekend, but he had one moment where he did this just amazing one-handed pickup. And I know he's a completely, the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah. So I know that he's not. I know that he's not the same player as Nat Fife, but I remembered when Nat Fife came in for his first or second game. I think it was his first game against Sydney in the wet, and he did something very similar, just this one-handed pickup, full pace, and
yeah,
we all went, "Wow, this guy!" And that's the way I sort of felt about Draper. He looked amazing.
yeah. He's only
Um,
going to get better, that kid.
yeah. So it, there's been a lot of comparisons drawn to Michael Johnson,
Yeah,
and I can see that. The gangly, cool, composed number 37 running out there. All I would
yep.
say to this is, I hope he's nothing like Michael Johnson off the field. 'Cause
Yeah,
he's
keep it on the field.
yeah. Let's just keep the comparison on the field. Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, he looked really, really good as well. So certainly think we've got one there.
Yep.
But how are we going to fit them all in, Pistol? How are we going to fit them all in? Like, this is the problem. This is what I've been saying every draft day. What the hell is going on down there? All we seem to be able to do is, draft key position defenders.
I mean, it
And
has helped a little bit this year with a few going down with injury, but still.
I mean, I wanted to keep Hamling. So if we had have kept, then obviously, it shows more the full me, because They obviously knew what they had in Draper, and we've picked up Oscar McDonald, who looked really good until he got injured. But we've got some good news on
Yes.
that front,
Yep.
as broken by you.
By forwarding the official Freo
Yeah.
tweet.
So yeah, but how many key defenders can we have? Hugh Davies looks good, by the way. I
Yeah, a bit
watched
of
a
the
bit of
Peel
that
game.
Peel Thunder game last weekend. Yeah, he
Yep.
he looks pretty good.
Yep.
I think we got one there as well. So, but just what I worry about is that we're going to have too much depth in one particular area, not enough depth in another area, so we don't get the side balance. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if we do have talent, like this is how guys like, I'm trying to think. I had an example in my head, but this is how guys leave clubs and go to others and dominate. You know, because you've got
Yes.
so much. It's like the Stuart McGill syndrome, except Stuart McGill had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
you know, um, yeah. So I do worry sometimes that we've got players who could leave because they're simply not getting an opportunity, and we talk about Erasmus in the same respect, don't we? Really?
Yeah, I guess the other one's Will Brody.
Yeah. So, all right. I think breakdown of the weekend. Who did you have? Who did you have in the best?
I had Pearson's best on ground for me, and then
Mm,
down to Youngie, um, and then Luke Bryan, Clark, and Walters rounding out the
yeah.
top five.
So I
Um,
think I think what we're going to do, right? We'll just have our best for each game, and then come up with the you can't handle sports award, which I'm sure everyone cares about, especially
yeah,
the
yeah,
players.
yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
players will be all over it.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess from the first three rounds, I've tallied them up. Sarong's leading that with 19, Jackson 16, and then Pearce top three with 15.
Yeah, that would probably go in line with the votes that I had for the Adelaide game. I had Young as the best. I think he had
Yeah,
34 touches, and just his kick. He's so damaging. He's
yeah.
so damaging with his kicking. We need to get the ball into his hands at all times.
As JL said, it's a bit like cricket with the left-right hand combination, the batting. That left
Yeah,
foot, the midfielders from the opposition, they're not swinging over and covering off that right leg or whatever from our mids. There's that different dynamic with Young going the other way.
yeah. He just reminds me so much of Nathan Buckley. He really does. It shows how old I am because he hasn't been gone. I mean, he's had a coaching career since he was last playing, and that's been and gone.
Yes.
So that's how old we are, mate. But so I had
Yep.
Young, I had Alex Pearce as 4 votes. You could have interchanged them really. Um, he was amazing, and I tell you what, he's starting to get what I've seen a lot on social media. Let's give Alex Pearce his flowers. Um, and it's right. Like last year, he was injured. Um, we've questioned his captaincy. Whether he's the right person for the captaincy. I still think that if it was my choice, it would be Sarong. Um, but having said that, the players select them.
Yep.
So, they're obviously happy. So, but he was injured last year, and this year he's come back. He's always been a top shelf defender. If he
Yeah.
can stay injury free and keep playing the way he's playing, he will be all Australian fullback, in my opinion.
Yeah. Between him and Taylor, they're the form two in the comp.
Yeah. I had with 3 votes Luke Ryan. Um, yeah, I had 2 votes. I had Sarong. I know if you look at his lofty standards for this year, he only got 28 touches. But I think when we needed somebody to step up in that third quarter, along with Hayden Young, it was Sarong. And then I had 1 vote for Walters. But geez, he kicked. Was it 2 goals, 5?
Yeah, he
Um,
could have put that game away very early.
he could have put it away in the first quarter.
Yeah,
He had, I think he had 4 points in the first
yeah.
quarter or something, or 1 goal, 4. Yeah,
It was a very unlike Sonny game that. Like he was great,
Mm,
but yeah, if he's normally dead eye.
good enough to get in the votes anyway. So,
Yeah,
yeah, look, probably I think if I had a couple of a nod and winks, to a bit of unlucky guys, it would have been James Aish. He had 29 touches. I think he was magnificent. Also Jordan Clark, who
yeah.
yeah, he has been sneaky good this year. Like he's been one of our best, I think. But I've
Yeah.
never had him in my best, I don't think, but he's been one of our best. So very consistent.
The one for
Um,
me, and I got a real good look at him. He was on my wing for a couple of quarters there, and geez, Sharpie just
oh
runs
yeah,
forward
your
and back,
man.
defensive end. A couple of
Yeah.
defense. He had a spoil on the goal line and one, and then another one where he came back and outmarked his opponent. Was just it's something that we did not get from Liam Henry.
No, no. Yeah, your man. He's officially your man. I like him too. I think, yeah, I think you're dead right. He would be. I don't think there's a player in the AFL that could outrun him. I think he's the fittest
No.
player in the AFL. Um,
Like he
and
did
so
look spent with a couple of minutes to go. He was cramping up and everything just in front of me. But
yeah,
I tweeted out to Freo. Just I'd be curious to see what his Ks were for that game
yeah,
because the Ks I've
because
seen him running, he'd
yeah,
have to be 16, 17, I reckon.
yeah,
Easy.
yeah. I think you can get that on the AFL website, can't you? Can you get
I
that? I don't
haven't
know.
looked to be honest.
I'm gonna. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna. That'll be my. Oops. That'll be a little homework assignment because you've got me curious now. Um, I,
Have a quick look
I
in the
reckon
break.
you. Yeah, we'll have a look in the break. But no, look, he looks like a real player. I think. I don't know what Gold Coast we're looking at, but maybe he's happier now that he's home. But that doesn't change his fitness. His skills seem pretty good to
Mm.
me. Like I I've always heard he's had pretty decent skills. Um, but
The
yeah, so
big thing for me was that two-way running, and not just going forward, but getting back to help the defence out. Like it was multiple. That was the two I brought up, but there was multiple times he was back there helping.
yeah. So looking at his stats right now, he had 443 meters gained. He was on the ground for 98 minutes. Yeah, so it doesn't actually tell me his how far he ran, but yeah, we'll look for that because I'm sure somewhere will be able to tell us. But no, I like him. I like him. He's pretty tall too. He's 190 centimeters.
Yeah,
Like that's not much different to Matthew Pavlich's height. I think he was like 192.
I don't think
So
you'll
yeah,
get Pav running that kind of kilometres.
no, no, no. So look, so that's good. No, look, and that was Sarong who's leading the votes at the moment. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, wrong.
Yes, Sarong.
He is on three ahead of Jackson.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, Jackson I thought was also good, but not to the standard that he'd obviously shown in the first couple of weeks. So
It
now we
was.
turn to the yeah. Sorry, mate, you jumped in.
I was going to say it's hard to when you win. It's hard to get in the votes.
Yeah, but and there's always a but. But now we play. Now the real tests occur. We've got Carlton for that stupid bloody gather round thing.
Yeah,
And then we've got Port Adelaide. So 2 games in Adelaide. 2 teams that are in very good form. I
potential
think
top
Port,
four.
yeah, Port arguably should be unbeaten. I mean, I know they lost to Melbourne last week, but they were very unlucky. From what I saw, Melbourne did what they needed to do in the big one. I think Simon Goodwin said it best. I think he said something to the effect of if you look at all the stats, Port Adelaide should have won, but we came out on top in the big moments, in the important
Yeah,
key moments,
and that was
and it shows
basically
how
kicking the throat.
yeah, and it shows how much you know, just really shows how delicately placed a game can be.
Mm.
So we're going to be facing Port Adelaide in 2 weeks' time at home, so that's going to be a tough gig. But let's talk about Carlton. So I noticed this week we go in unchanged.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see whether the sub, whether O'Meara remains as the sub or whether they bring him in on a full-time role. Carlton. Now they've had obviously got this amazing forward line centered around two very very good key position players. It's going to be the immovable object versus irresistible force this one because I think our strength is clearly our defence.
Yep.
And JL mentioned in his presser yesterday that the best way for us to counteract Carlton and their forwards is by making sure they don't get the supply.
100%.
Yeah. And the way in which and even if they do get supply, make sure that it's out on the wings and stuff. And we did a brilliant job of that against Adelaide because most of their shots on goal, the very few that they got, were wide from 50 of the pocket, and you can handle that. Only problem is that Curnow can kick those. So yeah, we're gonna need to really be on our A game.
Yep.
This is a game where I would have thought, Brennan Cox would have been super handy. I know Josh Draper. Yeah, I know Josh Draper's coming in as a key position player, but I just don't know whether you would really want him up against Harry Mackay or Curnow at this stage. What do you reckon? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same line as what you're thinking. I just don't know whether you match up Luke Ryan on either one of those, to be honest.
I kind of feel like Luke Ryan could go with Curnow for speed.
Yeah.
I also
Doesn't.
think that Luke Ryan's magnificent when it comes to bodying up his opponents. Now, whether or not he wants to, I mean, he'll do whatever he needs to for the team, but whether or not he feels comfortable or I'm sure he'd rather play that third man and float across and do the intercepting. But if it were me, I would be giving first crack at Curnow to Ryan and then have Mackay, who's a monster, he's 200 odd centimetres, have, just this massive man, get Alex Pearce to play on him. And then use Draper on the third tool, whoever that might be, because I can't quite picture who that would be at the moment.
I've got the list up. They've named Fantasia, Bat Kennedy, Fogarty, and Hollands as the other forwards.
Yeah, so they're not exactly giants.
Looking at that, and there's every chance Draper goes to Mackay, and then Ryan becomes that third zone off, doing what he usually does.
You reckon? Oh, okay, all right. Well, look, yeah. I mean, Justin Longmuir said, that he's got, faith in Draper to play that, and he's been brought in as a key position player. So, oh, geez, he just seems so skinny. Seems so skinny.
Only one way we're going to find out, I guess.
Yeah. The other thing is that I think Fantasia, as old and decrepit as he is, he's probably. I don't actually think he's that old. I think he's like 28. But as much as he's not been able to really keep himself reliable, I think he has killed us in the past. He's the sort of guy who pops up and kicks four out of nowhere for no reason against us.
Yeah.
So I would be putting Walker on him.
Yep.
And trying to lock him down. Because I think Walker's shown since he's come back that he can play that role again. He's I think he's got a lot of talent there, Walker. Hopefully his knee holds up.
Yeah.
So who's your tip then? Who are we going to win?
I have tipped us.
You have. Okay, wow. Okay, good. I have not. I have not. Um, but I'll. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful more than I'm confident. Um, I think they're going to get Walsh back.
No,
Oh no, he hasn't been named.
no. The only
Okay.
change for them is Kemp in and Marchbank out, who was injured.
Right. Right. Okay. So that leaves our midfield of what? Sarong, Brayshaw, Fife,
And
and Young against Chera, Cripps, Akers.
yeah, he's on the wing. You got George Hewitt in the guts. The way they've
Yeah.
been
Okay.
named anyway.
Yeah.
Cherry
All right.
Hewitt and
So
Cripps.
pound for pound, I'm okay with that. If you look for talent wise, I'm okay with that. Walsh might have tipped it in their favour, maybe.
Just need to
Yeah.
be just mindful. They got Wiedering down back, and their defense is actually not too bad.
Yeah.
Newman, Sard, Zach Williams is down there as well, McGovern. But interesting to see how many opportunities we give to our man Amiss and Tracy down there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The one
It's
thing that sorry,
no. You go.
the one thing that I'm keen to see improve is Tabner and Amiss on their I guess getting
Yeah.
in each other's space.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up actually. There's some footage there that a lot of people are upset about, and I think Tracy and Taberner are sort of vying for the same spot, and I think Taberner sort of pulls rank and sort of they get in each other's way, and then Taberner ends up dropping the mark. um, yeah, I know. Hard to understand. I mean, that happens if you've got a congested forward line.
Yeah,
Hard to hard to understand exactly how that can happen or how you can avoid that to a degree.
yeah. I mean, it's just going to take some time because I mean, Tab spent most of last year out, and you had Tracy and Amiss working together, so you're adding Tabner into the mix now. So there's just that cohesion piece that needs to happen now. So
I
it'll
think
work itself
Taberner,
out. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think Taberner needs to. I mean, he's always been used to being the focal, right? And now I think he needs to get used to the fact he's third option.
almost a default.
Um, yeah, and you know, I know he's been talking the right words about he'll do whatever he needs to for the team, and I believe that, but it would be a change in mindset because, to be honest, if they're kicking the ball into the forward line and there's the option of him, Tracy, or a miss, I want them to go to a miss
Mm,
first, and probably Tracy second.
yeah,
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You're right. Wiedering's a very good player. I'm assuming he's going to go to a miss.
yeah,
So that means that Tracy and Tabs are going to have to step up and kick them through because if they don't, who else is kicking our goals?
yeah. Now, whoever he goes to, our mids have to be smart enough not to put it on that contest.
Yeah. Or,
Look for other options.
yeah. And is this one of those games where you try and bog it down? Like, are we happy with a defensive struggle on this sort of a game? I wonder. Um, be happy with the fact that, all right, if we can keep Kerno and kind of like when we played Geelong a couple of years, like they kept Cameron and Hawkins to one goal between them.
Mm.
And we ended up winning the game 70-50 or something like that. I wonder whether we try and bog it down a little bit.
Yeah,
I know
I
it's
mean,
easier said
Carlton
than
are a
done.
side that can score quickly, so if they get a
Yeah,
bit of a run on, but Yeah, be interesting to see how it plays out. Where's it actually played at? I know it's in South Australia, but Adelaide Oval. I think we had a game at Norwood last year, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. So yeah, all right. Well, we'll see. Yeah, it'll be interesting. If we can win that, then I'll be and then even if we lose to Port after that, I wouldn't be happy. But still, if we could go into playing against the Road Cones 4-1, um, then geez, you go in 6-1 with good percentage. You gotta make finals from there, don't you?
Yeah,
Like you got to.
yeah. You'd have to.
Um, I know it gets harder after there as well, but we've still got to play North and Hawthorn and Richmond, and so in some of these, I think we play Adelaide again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves, I
Nah, I mean,
suppose.
there's dangerous teams all over the comp. Like Richmond knocked off the Swans last week, so um,
Yeah,
you don't have to be off by too far to get nailed.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. That's true. If anyone knows that, it is us. All right, so I guess move on a little bit. So I wanted to bring up a couple of things before we have a bit of a break, because so I alluded to it a little bit at the start. Now I'm fairly vocal on Twitter, um, and I've been fairly vocal just in general. And one day, at one point, this is some time ago, I had Justin Longmuir reach out to me saying, "Look, mate, what's the problem?" And this was a couple of years ago. And so from there, we created just a bit of a dialogue. I wasn't exactly sure it was him. I was, well, am I just getting, how can I verify this? And I verified it through the club. So I'm talking directly through to Justin, and he's happy. I'm not gonna divulge all the details, but what I would say is that I've asked him some fairly topical and poignant questions about where we are as a club, and he's been very very forthcoming in those discussions. So uh, without breaking any confidences, I wouldn't mind sort of maybe providing some of those insights. And it would, without doubt, I would say my angst that has been directed towards Justin has probably subsided a little bit, because I could not believe that any coach would possibly reach out to some mug dickhead punter who's screaming for his job. But he did, and he has talked me through a number of different things and given a lot of detail. And I respect that. I've got to respect that. I can't believe any other coach is doing it.
Yeah.
I respect it, and so probably one of the things I would say is I brought up first quarters. I said to him, mate, why do we have to make it so bloody hard for ourselves? What the hell is going on down there? This has to be, what is this? What can you shed some bloody light, because it's driving us insane. And I said to him, and I said after the Adelaide game, I said another crap start, and he pointed out to me, he goes, well, actually, last week we didn't start badly at all. He goes, we smashed them for inside 50s. We hurt ourselves with our entries. We hurt ourselves with our own indecision. And I went, okay. And he said, but ultimately, what he's finding is that with youth, and we use youth, I believe, just in general,
Yeah.
everybody uses youth as a bit of a coverall.
Yeah.
But he went into detail the mindset of how it's very difficult for young players who are so keyed up to get them to make the right decisions early in a game um, you know until they can learn to I guess adapt and they've got that experience to know, okay, this is what's going on, and pointed out that guys like Brayshaw and Sarong have only played 50 odd games, and they're our experienced leaders, right? So I went, okay, that makes sense. He sort of said, look, we're not Ferraris, we're diesel engine cars. This is just the way it is. But the final point to it, he said, was that he's trying not to make too big a deal of it because it's it's a 4-quarter game, and that ultimately if we win the game, then the ends justifies the means. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because again, why are we making it so hard for ourselves? But ultimately, he's saying youth, and getting the right decisions made early on in a game is impacting us at the moment. What are your thoughts? Would you agree with that assessment?
Uh, yeah, that's all, I guess, good to say. It's not really an issue while we're winning.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing if we gave that start we gave North Melbourne to Carlton this week, we're not coming back from that.
No. I said that to him too. I said, we can't do this against Carlton. He goes, yeah, no, we can't. He was pretty clear on that. He goes, no, you're right. He goes, because we let them kick 10 goals in the first quarter or something, well, then we're in trouble, right? So,
Yeah.
it was interesting. The other thing that I brought up was selection around certain players who, I won't lie. Will Brodie's my man. I loved him when he came in 2022, and Neil Erasmus is another one we've spoken about in detail here a lot. Like, why are they not getting games? How can they smash it appeal week in, week out? And essentially, what I got from this part of the discussion was that Erasmus is a developing player, and his future. He has a future, yeah. But Erasmus, prior to really coming into the AFL, played mostly school footy, and I wasn't aware of that. He played mostly school footy, and he benefited from beating up on, mugs like you and me when we were 16, 17. I remember playing once on, who's that guy who played for Brisbane? Clark. He was the key forward, ended up going to Melbourne. I can't remember his first name. Yeah, Clark. Anyway, he's meant to come to Freo, and Melbourne picked us at the end, and he had a bunch of injuries. And anyway, he kicked like 14 on me or something. So, and that's kind of what we're saying is that what's been said is that Erasmus was a big fish in a small pond, and now he's a lot of the stuff that he was doing, you just can't get away with at AFL level. He also mentioned it was also mentioned that Erasmus is an inside mid. That is his position, and he is competing with Sarong, Brayshaw, Fife, now Young, for an inside mid position, and whereas Johnson, and my frustration with Johnson's been brought up a few times as well, saying, look, why is he getting all the opportunities? Well, the reality is of the situation is that Johnson can play wing, and Rasmus probably could play wing, but he doesn't and hasn't in the past.
Yeah.
So essentially, there's no position for him at the moment because of the role that he has always played, which is as an inside mid. Now, I said I don't want to bring up Bailey Bamford. He had such a good game. He's had a good start to the year, but he's an easy target, and I don't want him to be a whipping boy because I actually like the guy. I think he heart and soul player. But I brought him up anyway. I said, look, well, couldn't Erasmus do what Bailey Bamfield's doing, surely? And the response was, well, he could, but he never has in the past. So these guys like Erasmus and Will Brodie, they're essentially trying to find a position in the forward line, and the forwards that are already in there are playing that position better than what they can. So there's
Yeah.
no role.
And you're not going to switch to defence because that
No,
defensive unit's pretty solid.
no. So I don't know. So that's the Erasmus component of it.
Yeah.
The Will Brodie component was probably a little bit was a little bit more interesting in the respect that I got the feeling that Erasmus has got a future sort of potentially in other roles. Will Brodie, I got the impression that Will Brodie, I got the impression that actually he really he needs an injury or something.
Yeah.
Because he's quite limited in his role other than inside mid, and and this is where he was at Gold Coast, really. So he's gone from being what was it, top 5 or 6 in our best and fairest in 2022 in a successful year to not having a role.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think a lot of sides have this issue with their inside mids, is a lot of them don't play other roles. So I don't think it's just with Freo. I'm just trying to think of another example that guys were getting kept out. I can't
Will
off the top of my head.
Phillips. It's a random example, but Will
Yeah,
Phillips
yeah, for North, yeah.
from North Melbourne. He was
He,
a first round draft pick, just like Erasmus. In fact, he might have been the same. He might have been 10, and just doesn't get a
yeah,
game.
yeah. I mean, with all their
Yeah,
picks lately, they've
the only
gone straight
difference
past
is
him.
that North. The only difference is that North don't have Sarong, Brayshaw, Fife, and yeah.
Yeah,
So there might be something else going on there. But yeah. Anyway, he's the example I think of.
yeah,
Oh, Paddy Dow at Carlton.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. When you got Walsh and all those sorts of guys.
yeah. So, um, so very interesting. Another thing. I mean, I've got some. I'll keep. I've got this. I'm going to keep having this dialogue with him, and I'm not going to betray any trust. I'm not going to share messages. I'll just sort of give overviews on some of my thoughts, and some of the more controversial stuff I'll just keep to keep to myself.
Yeah,
But I asked him. I said, "Look, mate, why are you even bothering with a dickhead like me?" Like I did ask him that. I was kind of intrigued because, like I said earlier, I think at one point I kind of thought I might have been getting catfished,
yeah,
but I'm not. And he basically said, "Look, he does this with just a few supporters, not many, but a few. He does do this, and he says I like to educate people." He goes, and I get really frustrated and angry because he believes that the media simplifies things too much. He goes, and the public, the people who love footy just don't quite understand the intricacies of it. And at first I thought, fuck, hang on. I've been supporting footy my entire life. I like to
yeah,
think I've got a fairly decent view on it. But there are certain things that clearly we don't get on the outside. And there are some considerations that he's brought up with me where I'm like, okay, no, it's a fair point. And so he really is trying to do me a favour by saying, look, mate, I appreciate your enthusiasm, whether you rate me or not. Appreciate your enthusiasm and love for the club. You've been a member 30 years. But let's just try and calm down a little bit, firstly. And secondly, which is hard for me to do because I'm so emotionally attached, like you are.
yeah,
But secondly, look, these are some of the inner workings of the club that you wouldn't see that factor into some of these areas where you get so wound up about them. And yeah, so very, very interesting. Very,
yeah.
very interesting.
No, that's
Um,
pretty good insight.
yeah, I'll keep releasing little nuggets of information when it's appropriate. Um, and we'll keep that going because I think we call this podcast "You Can't Handle the Truth" because we've been raging against the machine and quite angry, and and we that's the premise of and to be honest with you, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
What will change is my understanding and education, or our understanding and education, and then we can refine our opinions on that as we go. Things like there are certain things that I will just never agree with, and I just cannot believe. I still cannot believe that we extended Justin the way that we did. That to me, no, it doesn't matter what he says. And to be fair, I haven't spoken to him about that. I just don't get that. That to me just does not make sense.
The 3-0 start still doesn't change my thinking on the timing of it. I still think we should have. I know they're spinning the line of it was a distraction and blah blah blah, and to limit the noise. I just think we should have been able to see a handful of games, got to the bye, see where we're at, bang, there's your contract. I know it works for him because he's rejigged his contract, and if they do sack him, he's got more of a payout. He's got more of a guarantee on that side of things. But I still think even with the 3-0 start, we should have waited. But
the other thing is
that so far.
Yeah, I mean it's working out so far. But the other part of it is that if we had have been 0-6, I mean look, 0-6 or 0-5, whatever. If we had started out horribly, which was our concern, like you end up in the Adelaide situation. Now I don't know if you've been reading much on the Adelaide posts at the moment. I'm a bit macabre like that. I quite enjoy reading other people's meltdowns because I've had those meltdowns myself.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people who aren't happy with Adelaide at the moment, and there are a lot of people who are bringing up the same sort of stuff that we were talking about, right?
Yep.
Anyway, look, suggest we have a slight break. I'm going to try this music thing, but in future, if anyone's listening, we're going to try and embed this a little bit better so that it's, so that it's not so amateur hour. But I'll just put on a little bit of a song for a couple of minutes, and then we'll, come back and go through the Forgotten Dockers segment. All right. Here we go. This song, I'm sure you'll know this one, Pete. This one's for you. Say, great boy, that's sweet, let it be. It's the rain. It's my dogs fly out in the night as they roam restless. Close will scour me, fella. I must do what's right. Let's do the natural rise. So could just for the sake of truth. I seem to throw what's deep inside. Fighting out this thing that I picked up. I'm just great. Righto, we're back. You got half a song there. Amateur hour on my end. Amateur hour. That song was by Toto, Africa, and my daughter right now will sing nothing but that song.
Yeah, right.
Which is what was in my mind.
Not the worst song.
No, it's quite good. I like it. So last episode we did what the episode we did the segment called Forgotten Dockers, and I came through with guys like Neil Mildenhall and the rest. So what we're going to do now is I did the back line, you're going to do your back line, and then once we've gone through the entire list, the entire team will come together, and I reckon we publish a all-time Forgotten Dockers team. So
Right.
your time to shine, mate. Who you got? I'm looking forward to having a chuckle. Who we got? Let's go to memory lane.
Well, right. Misunderstood sometimes. Alex Silvani.
Oh yeah,
60 games for
Alex
us.
he was pretty good actually when he came in as a rookie and ended up at Carlton, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he played 1, maybe 2 years at Carlton in the end. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good. I like.
Unfortunately, we couldn't get this guy to father-son level because his couple of sons aren't too bad. Andy McGovern.
Yeah. He was good, actually. He was really good because he started his career in Sydney. Tough back pocket. Yep. He was good. Yeah, I liked it. But he must have only played 50 games or something like that.
83 all up. I'm not sure how many for Freo. I should have looked at that, but 83
that would have. I reckon that would have been at least 75 with Freo. I don't reckon he played too many with Sydney. Yeah, right. Yeah, good. Yeah.
This guy was probably more. He floated across halfback every now and then in his 36 games. Andrew Seagate.
Oh, Andrew Seagate. Wow. Andrew Seagate. Yeah. He did play, but I remember him more as like a defensive stopper in the midfield. But I think you're right. He did play a bit of halfback.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. He played a lot of footy. He played a lot of footy for South Fremantle, that guy. And ended up, I think he captained South Fremantle in their premiership.
And probably, I don't know, they might have crossed over. I'm not sure of the years here, but similar sort of mould was sort of your halfback sort of / midfield. Brad Bootsma.
Oh!
I think he played 2 years, I think.
He was a mature age pick, and I think we must have picked him up when he was like 29 or something.
Yeah.
28 or 29, Brad Bootsma. Yeah, and his son ended up getting drafted to Carlton and had some kind of behavioural issues, and then ended up playing Peel Thunder after he got, and then after that, because I think he was trying to get back into the AFL, specifically to the Dockers. I think he might have even trained with Freo at one point. And then when that didn't work out, he went down to Mundajong and played for Mundajong Footy Club against South Andra. Yeah.
Nice.
Brad Boosma. All right, so that's four of them.
Marcus Drum,
Marcus
former
Drum.
top 10 pick.
Yeah, Marcus Drum. So top 10 pick. Damien
22
Drum's,
games in total.
Damien Drum's nephew, ended up at Geelong, and his career finished because he ended up with a detached retina in his eye. But probably more specifically, his career finished because he just wasn't very good. But um,
The eye didn't
but
help.
yeah, the eye the eye didn't help. It's funny. Can you see now how much bullshit I just retained in my memory? I
Yeah.
haven't thought of any of these players in forever. I can't. And you haven't given me verify. You haven't given me this list, right? So
Yep.
okay, no, good. All right.
Um,
So I'm interested. Who's number six? Number
Anthony
six with the book.
Jones.
Oh, AJ. AJ, I loved AJ. He ended up being a runner for West Coast.
Yeah.
And I remember going to derbies, and this is back when we were playing at Suvi. I remember going to derbies, and everyone was like, "Oh, AJ, what are you doing, mate? Come on! It wasn't always like this, you know." And you can tell the guy, his heart is with Freo. It was always with Freo, but there he
Yeah.
was running, doing the running for West Coast.
Yeah.
I also remember one time because he was very, very injury prone. I
Yeah.
remember one time he was on the bench, and I was a kid. I must have been like 13 or 14. And I remember he was just getting a rub down, and I shout out to him, "Hey, AJ, you okay? You injured?" And, it was a completely innocent question. And he looked at me and laughed and said, "Nah, I'm all good." But you could tell he was thinking, I'm always injured, so it's probably a reasonable question.
Yeah.
Anthony.
82 games across 9 years.
Yeah, right. I liked Anthony Jones. He was a Claremont player too, if I remember rightly. Coming from
And
Claremont.
not sure if you remember this, but he actually won the Sandover in 2007.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know. Wow, yeah, I did
Beat
not
out
remember.
Brad Smith, I think it was the
Ex-Eagle
Subi
forward.
forward, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay, shit. I didn't remember that. No, I don't remember that at all. He was a good footballer.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's awesome. I reckon what we do now is post our two backlines. I'll do that. I'll tell you what, I'll do that. And
Yep.
then we can keep record, and then by the end see if we can get some interaction. Yeah, that would be sweet. Great job by you, mate. Great job by you. Anything else to add before we
Yep.
sign off?
Not really. No. Hopefully we get a win this week and all be right in the world.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, for anyone that's potentially listening, get at us at any time. You can reach us via our email. You can't handle the truth sp@outlook.com. Or you can get at us at Twitter. You can't handle sp. Or my Twitter handle is rubbish ych, and you can get to the pistol at
The Pistol 17.
Pistol 17. All right, great job by you, mate. We'll we'll leave it at that, and we'll go Dockers. Fingers crossed.